press conference on proposed rates. I'm Mayor Palacios, Communications Lead for Jackson Water. So we're going to start. Ted is going to give us a few remarks, and then we'll walk you through a few bill examples, and after that we'll take questions. Great.
Thanks everybody for being here. Finally got to the point where we're ready to start talking numbers that everybody wants to hear about. So take this opportunity. This is the first rate increase that's been proposed, obviously, since the stipulated order was put into effect by Judge Wingate November 29th. So we've been working on financial management plans. We've been working on a lot of understanding what our budget needs to be in the future and where we are today and the revenue we need to generate to create a well-run, fully funded utility. And so that's really the goal here, is to make sure we're self-supporting in the long term. I think you've all heard my comments over the last several months about roughly 56% of people we bill are paying their bills. That number keeps going up each month since we've really started focusing on that. We will start shutting people off for not paying their bills to get that number up to where it needs to be. The good utilities across the United States collect anywhere from 95 to 99% of the amount they bill. And we'd like to be in that category within a few years. We recognize we can't just turn that right on, but we're moving that direction. So the interim stipulated order that Judge Wingate entered that appointed me as the interim third-party manager has a process in it for me to submit to propose rate increases and rate restructuring. And that process essentially is I propose something to the mayor. He has to put it on the council agenda at the next regular scheduled meeting. And so the plan is, again, to submit this to the mayor late today or on Monday, and it'll show up on the December 5th council agenda, if that's correct. That's the meeting we're targeting to get this on the council's agenda. And from there, council takes action. And there's a couple things that happen according to the order. They can pass the proposal as submitted. If they pass on the proposal and don't approve it, the order allows the interim third-party manager to go ahead and implement the proposal anyway. So we are planning to move this forward in the format that it's at. It'd be great to have some discussion about that with the council and with the citizens. We think this is a great opportunity to really change the dialogue around water and sewer in the city of Jackson. So the rate structure, and many of you, I think, remember last year, early in the year, I talked about some unusual proposals for rates. We were struggling to get meters in the ground. I was talking about using property value or property size, some attribute of property to base our rates on. Shortly after that, during the last legislative session, House Bill 698 was proposed, passed, and signed into law, which eliminates the ability to do that legally. So we've pivoted away from the idea of using something unusual, and we're sticking in strict compliance to the HB 698 requirements. And in that, it requires a volumetric rate, as well as it allows for a fee, and the fee covers, reading from the actual bill, calculation of a user's bill shall be limited to the actual amount of volumetric usage, plus those fees reasonable and necessary for the cost of capital expenses, system operation and maintenance, and debt service. And many of you have also heard me talk about those are the costs. When you look at water, the variable cost, the cost of the water you actually drink, very small part of it. And so we've structured this rate system to have a fee, and we're calling it an availability fee that covers those capital expenses, system operation and maintenance, and debt service. In our case, debt service is still a huge portion. There's outstanding debt of about $260 million. The monthly debt service payments are almost $2 million a month. And so all that fits into the fixed part of this, the fee that we will charge. And it's going to be a meter-sized based fee. So if your meter is a 5/8 inch meter, you get a $40 availability fee, and then you're going to pay $6 for every 100 cubic feet of water you use. And sorry about the 100 cubic feet. That's 748 gallons, but each 100 cubic feet, 748 gallons. Now, our meters are in 100 cubic feet, so we don't talk gallons, which everyone else talks gallons. The water utility business, and it's not unique to Jackson, it's in 100 cubic feet. But to give you proportion, so a regular family uses about 6 to 7 CCF for an average family in Jackson, which 2.5 people in a household. And so they have a 5/8 inch meter, and they use about 6 CCF, 100 cubic feet, which is the equivalent of about 5,000 gallons of water a month. And that bill would be calculated with $6 for every 100 cubic feet they use, and that's water and sewer combined. So if you think about the rate today, it's $3.85 for water and $5.35, or I have that backwards, but it's close to those. Those are the numbers, $5.35 for sewer, that combined to $9.20, under 20 cents, 12 cents. And then compare that to the $6 per CCF that we'll pay going forward. But again, the monthly fee in today's bill is $11.55, and it'll be $40 for a 5/8 inch meter, and then larger meters get proportional to the amount of water that can flow through those. Will have higher availability fees. A couple things we're doing that's very unique. So we recognize that there's 25% of Jackson's population that's pretty economically disadvantaged, and most of those are receiving SNAP benefits. So we've created a customer class, which is called SNAP, and they will categorically get a lower availability fee if they're receiving SNAP benefits. And so that allows us to, they'll pay the exact same amount for the water they're using, the volumetric charge, at $6 per 100 cubic feet, but their availability fee for a 5/8 inch meter for a SNAP customer classification customer is going to be $10 a month. So their bill, water and sewer combined plus availability fee, will be somewhere just under $50 a month, which by our calculations seems affordable for even the folks that are receiving SNAP benefits based on their income levels. Everyone else's average bill will be somewhere with a 5/8 inch meter, will be somewhere around $76 a month. So again, when you compare that to what most people are paying today, it's not very far off. If you use more water, you may be very close, and we'll show you some examples of how those bills play out. Municipally, so the SNAP piece is also based in some language in Mississippi law. So a lot of people think you can't separate people within a customer classification, and you can't. So the law actually says a municipality may set different rates for different classifications of users. A municipality shall not discriminate in setting rates among members of the same classification. So we've created a SNAP classification. It's a different classification, and it's legally based on the fact that we've already recognized them in the state of Mississippi, who administers the SNAP program for nutrition. And so they're already been classified differently than the rest of the population. And that is the basis for this. So we're really excited that we're going to make an affordable rate. And the reason that's very important for us, and we talk a lot about needing to cut people off for not paying their bill, is that we have to collect. And if the bill's not affordable, we get back in the same spiral we were in before, where people just can't pay their bill. We shut them off, they work around it. It creates a real stress on the community, and it's not, again, unique to Jackson. So having a bill that's affordable makes it easier for us to actually shut people off to collect it, because we know they can afford to pay it. There will be times when people have financial issues and they can't pay their bill, and so we've created a fund with a community foundation for rate assistance. Essentially, that's a phone call to Jackson Water's number right over there, 601-500-5200, saying I've experienced some financial distress, and they'll get a series of questions, and if they're eligible, we will use some of that. Again, it's foundation money. It's sitting in the community foundation. We're always looking for donations, and we'll have lots of opportunities for customers to contribute to that fund over the next many years as we try to build up that to support our citizens in times when they're struggling to pay their bill. Finally, we're all in this together, and that's really the message. You know, there will be some people that are going to see their bills go up. There'll be people seeing their bills go down. At the end of the day, we need to pay for water. It's valuable. We need to pay for sewage collection, and we're trying to get sewage back into the pipes. And we've already made some significant progress there, but it's not right to have sewage running in the streets. A lot of people are wondering about all the federal dollars we've gotten. Why do we need to do this? None of the federal dollars are eligible to use for the sewer system at all. And all of the federal dollars are really tied to specific infrastructure projects. And we will burn through that quickly, making the repairs we need to make to the water system. And we need to be sustainable on the long term. And And so this rate model that we're putting in place will allow us to be sustainable for the long term. I think that's, then you've got a press release that has a lot of details, but I'm going to walk you through a couple examples on these slides, and then we'll take some questions from there. So, what we have in this one, this is a 5/8 inch regular customer meter using about 8.5 cubic feet of water. This is currently this is the rates that are in place today, $3.85 for the water, $5.36 for sewer, and a service fee of $11.55. So the bill would add up today to $89.83 pre-tax. And we have 7% tax for state and 1% city tax that goes on the bill. This is pre-tax. And this is without sanitation charges. We're comparing water and sewer to water and sewer. Sanitation is not under the interim third-party manager. City sets that rate. We're still billing and collecting for them at this point, but we will ultimately switch that to a separate bill, and you'll see that in the not too distant future. So under the proposed rates, that same 8.5 cubic feet at $6 per cubic feet, pay $51 for water and sewer together, and then because it's a 5/8 inch meter, the availability fee is $40. So $91, so less than $2 difference in that particular example. Again, if you went down to 6 CCF, the difference is a little closer to $10, I believe. So it's all very dependent on water usage. People that are concerned, this is an inclining block water rate. So there's 4 rates for water. If you use up to 30 CCF a month, that's a lot of water. And I don't think any of our residential single home families use anywhere near 30 CCF a month. It's all $6. If you use more than 30 CCF, it goes up to $12. If you use more than 100, it goes to $14. And then if you use more than 350, it goes to $16. So it's an inclining block rate to encourage conservation. Even within businesses, we're trying to get them to reduce their water dependency. That allows us not to have to invest more in water supply or increase plant sizes, things like that, that are long-term investments that need to be made. So that's an easy example. Again, trying to use real numbers, which we did. We pulled some example meters and found that this particular person, and it's obviously fictitious, regular Joe Smith. We go to the next one. This is a 5/8 inch meter in a SNAP household. So that's, again, they're in the SNAP customer classification because they're receiving SNAP benefits. Currently, they're paying $66.81 a month. Under the new rate structure, it'll be $46. Trying to make it affordable for the folks that are already recognized as in need of government assistance for a nutrition program. Water is every bit as important. In fact, you can go roughly 3 days without water. You can go about 30 days without food. Another 5/8 inch meter. This is but a small business. This is a hair salon, and we went and looked at what hair salons use. This one was using about 15 CCF per month. You can see their bill will also drop based on the particular combination of water usage and the 5/8 inch meter availability charge. So we went from currently somewhere in the 180 range to down to about 130. So small business is going to get some advantage. This is a pizza shop. Uses a lot more water, about 100 cubic feet. Current bill is somewhere in the 1,700 range. Remember, it's an inclining block water rate. So they're paying much more for the water as they get used more during the month. And so they're seeing a pretty significant increase, up to $2,500 per month. And then finally, we've got a full service restaurant. And then this particular one used a little less than the pizza example that we used. And their charges would go from $13.48. Again, this is a 2 inch meter. Availability charge is much higher because you put a lot more water through a 2 inch meter. And their charges go to $1,900. So significant, but not overly crazy increase. And then finally, this is a multifamily development concept. Uses a lot of water. Again, the rate changes at both above 30, there's a different rate for the water use between 30 and 100. And then from 100 to 350 is a different rate, and then over 350. So this is the maximum rate for the water. Has an 1.5 inch meter, so the availability charge is based again on the meter size. And and they go from somewhere around 8,500 to 13,000, almost 14,000. That's it for the examples. So with that, let's get back to the regular Joe Smith. Roughly 50,000 of our customers fall into this category. We are largely residential, 5/8 inch meters predominant, and so most folks in our customer base will see something like this, a relatively small change in their water bill. And if they use less water, they can actually get that bill down to closer to where they were before.
Ted, this SNAP classification, are you working off a model? Is this being used elsewhere in the country?
There's been a lot of study of trying to get SNAP benefits eligible, or utility bills eligible for SNAP benefits. So you think about the SNAP program, you can actually buy bottled water with your SNAP. And the cost of bottled water is hundreds of times more expensive than drinking tap water. And so the idea that you could pay your utility bill with SNAP is catching on in discussions. I had that discussion actually with a Senate Appropriations staffer for the Ag Subcommittee. There's a professor out of University of Wisconsin, Manny Teodoro, has been studying this at length. We really think it's a better way to deal with water bills across the country. This might be the piece that gets people's attention. Mississippi leading the way here in Jackson with that. And then potentially we don't even have to have a separate SNAP classification in the future, because if the SNAP program changed to allow them to pay their bill, we could eliminate that.
So to your knowledge, this would be a national first?
This would be a national first.
Okay.
Ms. Jim.
Is there an AG opinion on SNAP classification issue?
No.
Or are you eligible to even get those opinions?
I don't think, because I am a private enterprise at this point, we couldn't get an AG opinion, but we've done legal research, extensive legal research, and have built our own legal opinion.
What did were there any cases you based that on, or what was
Not
it?
on a SNAP, it was on how you define classification,
Okay.
customer classification. Any other questions?
You have a lot of space on the 5/8 inch meter. Some residents, especially older residents, are going to wonder, do I have that?
Pretty much everyone does, unless you're in a very large house or I don't even know there's much residential fire prevention or fire protection in Jackson, but you might have a bigger meter if that was the case. But I would say 95% of our residents have 5/8 inch meters. There's a few that have 1 inch meters, but not very many.
Okay. You also mentioned the fact that on the bill there's going to be a charge for delinquent. Or was it, you're essentially going after deadbeats? Is that it?
People need to pay their bill. We don't want to shut anyone off. So there's no charge for that. At this point, if you do get shut off, there is a restoration of service charge, because we've got to roll a crew out there and restore your water. And so there is a cost to us, and we don't think that's fair to share with everybody. You're responsible for paying your bill, so there will be a restoration charge to come back and turn the water on.
You also, and previously, you mentioned the fact that there's what, $200+ million in water?
No, it was about, I think the water debt, previous debt was somewhere in the, originally was around 94. You know, we had a disputed bill program where we got some of that moved off of the bills. It's not gone. It's still, accounting wise, it still sits in the back, but it's not linked to a specific account. And we're not even going to deal with that for the near term.
Okay.
How much extra revenue are you expecting to come in next year from this rate change, and what are the biggest priorities for those funds?
Sure. So if you look at the last several years, the city's been bringing in somewhere in the $45 to $55 million range for a utility that's cost $75 million to run. So they've been supplementing with the general fund to largely pay the debt. So if you look at our financial statements, I think the most recent one is 22, maybe even 21, that they transferred a lot of general fund money to keep the enterprise afloat. So that we're going to, if we were to generate the $100 million that we would through this, if everyone was paying, we're expecting them to maybe fall 20% short in this current year. We actually have a little more wiggle room because the federal dollars we were getting, a portion of that is able to pay for water operation and maintenance. And this is what's going to give us time to ramp up to our full collection. So we will be offsetting local operation and maintenance costs with federal dollars until we get to the point where we're fully recovered as far as getting all of our revenue back in. So we've really got a fairly narrow window to get us back to where we need to be before we burn through the operation and maintenance federal funds. We've got about 2 more years of that available to us to get us to the point where we're covered.
What do you say to the restaurant owners, because they've been beat up pretty good the last few years for obvious reasons? What do you say to them when if they're being told, okay, your water bill is going to go up another $500 or so a month? Because they're not going to be happy.
So they're pretty happy with us at the moment. We've talked to the Restaurant Association.
Because they're getting water service.
Because they're getting water service. The impact to them when they weren't getting water service was tremendous. Loss of product, loss of business, challenged to even get business continuity insurance as a result of the water system here. They've not experienced a problem in the last 11 months. Get through this winter, I think everyone's gonna have a lot of confidence that we're back in the place we need to be. A reliable water system. You don't have to worry about bottled water, strange filters, anything else in your restaurant. You can do business here in Jackson confidently that you're gonna have water when you need it.
Where do we stand on the Find and Fix program?
We are still full bore out every day, multiple crews. You see some of that. A lot of people see it on Northside Drive. Little major inconvenience there.
Can't get our barbecue there.
Got to go around either side. It's a little tough right now. We're still working on that particular one. We've got a couple big ones going on Farish and then over off of down in the area behind there where we've got 2 under the railroad that we're working on. Again, longer term because we've got to go through all the railroad permitting to go with a bore underneath the railroad. Nothing moves fast on the railroad except maybe the trains. I don't know. Maybe they don't either. But certainly you're not getting permits for them to dig under the tracks. So we've got, I think we're well over 500 repairs made, leaks at this point. We continue to have more. We recently have done a transient pressure study, which fancy words to say when we push water out from the plants, we're learning that as we change pumps, we're actually sending like shocks into the system, which is not helping our pipe break issues. We're working on figuring out ways to resolve that. So there's so many interconnected pieces here that we haven't fully understood, but we're getting better every day, and we're very responsive to the breaks. We've got crews going all over, and we continue to find unusual ones. We were out looking at a sewer issue near the end of McDowell and still not real great by Jackson geography. So it was McDowell and whatever. I can't come up with a name on the top of my head. But we were looking at a sewer issue and heard water running and found another major long-standing leak. Looked like a really nice stream going down towards Pearl River that was all drinking water. So
What's your estimate of the flow?
I think that one might have been 5-6 million gallons a day. It was big. It was taking pressure. So the juvenile detention facility on East McDowell, that's right there. It's kind of at a high spot. We lost pressure to them months ago, sometime early in the summer, probably when that break occurred. And we've been providing emergency water supply with tankers to that facility since that point in time. We were able to pull those off last week because pressures restored in that area as a result of fixing that break.
So that was basically the equivalent of the Colonial leak then, correct?
Yeah, we think so.
Okay.
We're waiting. It's a bit real elusive to understand the cumulative impact of all the leaks we fixed because seasonally we've gone through this very long drought. People's water consumption's way up. We're having breaks and other issues, so we haven't seen a decline in the overall water production we're putting into the system, even though we're fixing lots of leaks. So we're hoping at some point there's the magic button and we start seeing a real decline in the production needed to support the city, but that's not been experienced yet.
Have you decided when you're going to start water shutoffs?
Yeah, it'll be, at this point, we've been working on getting the staffing and process in place to start that so we can both shut it off and get it back on as soon as people pay their bills. And we've talked a lot about it in the fall. We're about ready right now, but we don't really think it's a great time to do it before the Thanksgiving holidays and between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I think it'll be right after the first of the year.
Ted, you mentioned the debt relief program still being available. Can you give some kind of description of how robust that program is right now? Or?
Yeah, it's actually not available any longer, so we've shut that down. But what we did is, as we've transitioned our billing system, because we're working on finally getting the billing system to the final point where that'll be early next year. We've had to clean up a lot of data and a lot of things that were in it. We made the decision to park all of those that debt money off of the bill, off of the person's account. They don't see it on their bill. And so we're really trying to get people to get current and pay it and stay current. And then we'll deal with however we're going to deal with that long-term debt. Again, Mississippi law won't let us do anything with it other than continue to carry it. So we haven't figured out the solution.
But just to be clear, so there will be at some point a program for folks if they're having trouble paying their bills.
If they're having trouble paying their bills, we definitely have that's the Mississippi Community Foundation program we've set in place with a amount of money to pay individual, and essentially those are for one-time financial crisis, and we're not looking at paying off debt. We're looking at paying off their current bill. We're trying to get everyone in the mode of stay current, because the minute you miss 1 month, it becomes a cumulative problem, and then you miss 3 months, and then you have no way to. So even our severance process is going to be laser focused on the minute you don't pay on the due date, we're going to start the severance process to get your attention, and we're going to cut your water off if you don't catch back up. We don't want anyone to be 3, 4, or 5 months behind. That's another part of the affordability piece. And people can usually budget for their 1 month bill, maybe 2. You get them back 6 months behind, they never catch back up.
Currently, some people have already gone over to billing through the city. Or is that going to carry over, or do they have to start over with a new account, or what are y'all going to do, huh?
So they're billing with us. I mean, essentially it's...
So it's already made its transfer over?
Correct. So if you're in an automatic payment or you set up a digital self-service account, which we encourage everyone to do, we're managing all of that. So that there wouldn't be a need for new account numbers or anything like that.
You're still going to maintain the 24/7 phone line?
Yes.
If someone loses their water?
Yep. That's ours.
And the crews that are working in the street to do repair, are they also under the Jackson Water?
They're all under our contracts, yes. So we have no one turning wrenches, we're contracting all that out.
So you mentioned, your original plan and, the obstacles you face with that. Seeing that you've got a completely new strategy you're presenting here, have you had the chance yet to kind of bounce this off, either customers, lawmakers, anybody kind of who would have a stake in this?
We have talked to the state, I've talked to the Lieutenant Governor directly, and went through this proposal because I didn't want to be in the same spot we were in last year. And so we've got his nod, and met with the governor this week. So I think we've done our due diligence on that end to make sure they weren't caught off guard with what we're doing, and that gave them an opportunity to give us some feedback. And I think we're largely in step at this point.
You don't expect any opposition from members of the council or the mayor?
Well, I would
Have you had conversations?
Would venture a guess. No, I have not. So again, the process is I provide it to the mayor, he puts it on the agenda.
Did you say, have you presented this to the mayor and the city council yet?
No. So this was the first step to get it out. Well, actually, the first step was make sure we weren't going to run into legal opposition through new bills and through the state. And I think we've checked that block with the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor. And so once this gets submitted to the city, we'll obviously be available to talk more to them as needed.
But they know it's coming, or do they? Okay.
The monies that are owed, is there a process that your agency is going to go through to try to collect? You have a private business going through?
No,
Something written off?
most of this, I can't say it's going to be written off because we're not allowed to write it off, but we can park it essentially in a separate service agreement and just not pursue it. And that's probably largely what we're going to do for a majority of small accounts. There are a number of folks that have been getting water without an account. So we don't, those on the other hand, we're going to be trying to get them established and reach back and get some money they owe us for having taken water without having an account at all. And there may not be of their own fault. Some of them, I've heard anecdotal stories that they tried to get an account established and weren't able to. The city wasn't cooperative. But as we identify these, and there could be as many as 5,000, maybe more properties that are here in Jackson that are getting water without having a water account. And we will not be very lenient on those as we find them. So we'll be negotiating those one-on-one on how long we can reach back and find their ability to pay.
Most of those residential accounts are for
I think a lot of them are there's, out of the 5,000, I have no idea. Do we have an idea of the break? Looking back, we don't really have the breakdown because we don't know who they are yet. So I think you all reported on us getting the Entergy customer database. That's to match to ours to see who's getting electricity and doesn't have a water account. That's a good place to start. But this is really challenging hard work because then you got to go out, visit the site, make sure they don't have a water meter. How are they getting water? How are they using water? We've got to do that thousands of times. So we're working with our staff and consultants to start that process. But it's going to be a slog to get through all those to understand. And then we got to reach out to them, get them an account, get them set up, get a meter installed. So this is going to be many months. Probably most of the coming year we'll be finding these folks and trying to collect that money.
And just to be clear, as we speak right now, those properties are getting water.
Yes.
So I just want to double check the numbers real quick, not to get too into the
Sure.
number part, but so in terms of what's not shown, it's the 1% tax, the 7% tax, and then the $37 sanitation charge.
Correct.
That's all on top of the
Right.
water.
And we're comparing apples to apples. This is the current rates for water, sewer, and their service fee. And so we're comparing that number to our water, and the only thing missing is tax, and that'll be roughly the same. Only portion of the bill gets taxed is your water consumption. Sewer treatment isn't taxed, availability fee isn't taxed, service fee isn't taxed. So that'll be the same going forward.
Kind of aside from just the billing situation, kind of, more looking ahead in general as far as, the water system and going into your second year, do you have kind of a general sense of what, priority projects, what kind of general, kind of general projects you're going to be tackling that are priorities the second year?
So many of them are in that priority project list that was in the original stipulated order, because some of that has taken a lot of design work. So a couple of big plant projects. One in particular is going to replace all the chemical feed and the chlorine system at O.B. Curtis, and that's at about approaching like 50% design at this point. And so that project will be under construction sometime during '24 to again make the plant much more dependable from that end. But again, Jacobs has been operating it very well despite the challenges with that. They've got great maintenance folks. They're replacing components they need to, but this is a full scale, every chemical feed, pump, storage, piping, all gets replaced, all gets put into a flow-paced computer structure so that as the flow changes through the plant, the chemical feed adjusts automatically. So that's going to be a huge benefit to the operators, to Jacobs, and to the quality and consistency of our water going forward. The other one is the small diameter pipes that I talked about early on. We've got 100 miles of pipe that are largely 2-inch in diameter that are serving entire street, and they're galvanized, and they're one problematic on our end because they break often, and two, they deteriorate water quality because it doesn't flow very well through there. Discoloration is often a fact there. The first pilot project for that has been designed, so 1 mile of streets to replace those water lines, and that is, in fact, I was checking this morning, I think we'll award that contract within the next few weeks and start that work. So that'll be the first piece of that, and we'll see follow-on work along those same areas. We're working with the Corps of Engineers closely on the Section 219 funding, and the first project they're doing is a pump at Savannah Street on the sewer side. That money can be used for sewer. And then we've tasked them, we're looking at dredging out the storm cells at Savannah. And then finally, they're looking at buying filters, new membrane cartridges. So the membrane plant at O.B. Curtis, many are familiar, we've got the conventional side and the membrane side. We can get new cartridges. There's for each of the 6 trains. I forget the total number, but there's a lot of cartridges. It's $1.6 million worth of the membrane cartridges in each of those trains. And we can put newer ones in that actually have more capacity, but they also won't have the repair problems. So these are reaching the end of their lifespan. You change cartridges out on the membranes probably every 4 to 5 years, and it's been longer than that for most of the membranes there. And so that, we just talked to the Corps recently about equipment buy, where they're gonna buy the cartridges and then Jacobs would install them for us there. So that's, next year we'll see all new cartridges. I think the capacity of the membrane plant will go from 25 million gallons a day to 33 as a result of the new cartridges. Yes, sir.
Where are we with fixing I think it's like 215 something emergency sewer failures? Do you have an update for that?
Yeah, we're over 40 now that have been repaired just the month, and we did a little work in the summer when the order was and wasn't, and they were following the little interesting things going on with the order and the public comment period. But so we had a little bit of a jump start in July, but we've done a lot of work in October since that sewer order took effect. And I think we're just north of 40 of those 215 have been totally resolved. Long way to go still, but you know, if we could do 40 a month, we'd knock the thing out. But we'll get some harder ones along the way that are going to be more challenging. And we're also financially limited. So the governor on what we're doing there is the ability to pay. And again, that's directly related to what we're talking about. We need that local revenue to come in, because there's no other source to pay for the sewer work that we're doing. And so truly, we had a couple big repairs done last month, and I had to actually have my folks not do any more big ones until we build up a little more money to pay the bills. But a lot of these are not expensive, which is amazing. Most of them are less than $20,000 to fix. And we've got, again, find and fix crews that are just doing sewer work, and they're doing amazing work for us.
So I guess, like, to what degree would you say the sewer projects are kind of maybe on hold because you're waiting for this new billing system to kick in?
Well, it's hard to estimate because there's plenty of small ones, so we're changing priorities. There's some of the big ones we'd like to be doing right now, but we don't have the war chest to pay for them. So it's a matter of triage. We're going to keep working. We're not going to just stop and try to build up money to do one big one when we can get 10 small ones done for $200,000, as opposed to waiting for the $200,000 to be in the bank to do the one big one. So we're only 45 days roughly into having the revenue. So up to this point, when the water order went into place, I was only being paid $1 million a month by the city. We didn't have access to the full revenue. The sewer order changed that, so the water and sewer revenue now flows directly to Jackson Water. So I'm just learning sort of how that shows up in the bank and what the frequencies, and we're trying to understand where we can spend safely and where we have to watch out for weeks when the collections aren't as high as they are in others. It's not a straight line every day. We don't see the same amount come in. Billing cycles change, the number of houses in a billing cycle, or a number of larger customers. And so there's peaks and valleys as you go through the month. But it'd be great if it all came in every day at the same amount. But some days it's really good. I'm excited when I look at the bank account in the morning and see that we got 600,000 yesterday. The next day it's 200,000. Like, forgot it. Kind of levels out. So just trying to be real careful. We don't have a safety net. We're operating without a general fund reserve. I mean, we are really just spending what we got. So it's a little challenging at the moment.
You said the collection rate was 56%, but it's going up. Do you have any idea what it could be?
So the month of October was like 68, but you can't look at a 1 month. And then I just looked this morning, last week was 56 or 52. So, again, that's another one you got to look at over a longer period of time. But the 56% was as of the end of the third quarter. So that was 3 quarters looking back, we were at 56%. But we know we're seeing several weeks, and we know the month of October was much better. So we expect to continue to see growth, but maybe the end of this quarter, we get a real measurement to say, yeah, we are definitely seeing a difference from the end of the third quarter to the end of the fourth. Anything else?
The galvanized lines that you're replacing, will the residents be forced to switch their own piping from the line to the house?
That, we would not be doing that typically in this, but we would just reconnect their pipe to we're basically going up to the meter, and the residence line comes on the other end of the meter, so we wouldn't be changing the meter or the service line going to the house. Long term, those will be replaced as part of the new lead and copper rule that EPA is revising. Galvanized pipes have to be treated as if they were lead. even though they don't have lead in them. But we can't prove clearly they were never downstream of a lead line, then we're going to have to treat them as if they were, and they will be replaced. But that'll be starting probably in 25. And Amir, do you know what the timeline is on replacement for lead service lines?
I can speak to that a little bit because of so just to clarify about the LCRR, we're anticipating the lead and copper rule improvements are about to hit any day now.
That's the EPA's new rule.
EPA's new rule.
A revised rule.
LCRR.
She's speaking
And
in
so
foreign language.
we're anticipating they're gonna encourage full replacement on a pretty aggressive timeline within as short as 10 years. So.
Yeah, so we'll be replacing a lot of those private service lines from the meter to the house over the next 10 years. And there's special funding for that, with reduced match requirements or low interest loans, but it's a full grant.
So I just want to ask one more thing about just kind of looking back at this last year. Is there one part of, whether it's one of the priority projects, whether it's just day to day, one thing that's kind of been more challenging than you anticipated, taking longer? I know there's probably a bunch, but is there one thing that kind of stands out?
I think a lot of it takes longer. The thing that stands out the most is a success. So, sometime in early October, we were able to flip a community that's off Forest Hill Avenue. That's Shenandoah area is about 180 houses back there that have been suffering miserably from low water pressure for years. And we worked with the state and worked with Jacobs to convert them from the surface water system to the well water system. And that was an amazing change in the life for those people. And we had an unsolicited Facebook post that a woman just screaming with joy, showing her faucet in her sink and just said, "Water pressure!" It was a great day at Jackson Water when we saw that happen. And so it's those little victories that are stand out more than, I don't think we've had great contractors working with us. We've had our very small staffs doing amazing things to keep that working. And we're getting bills paid quickly. We've got small minority contractors making money out of this deal because they're doing great work for us. So I don't think anything in there. I think the slowness, the surprise slowness for me is always in the bigger design work. It's sort of my background anyway. Whenever you have a big design project, I always think it should be able to be designed in like 3 months and put on the street. I expected the one I was referencing in the plant for the chemical feed, I expected that to be designed and under construction by now. It's not. And even the pilot project for the small pipe, that I expected that to happen this summer. So I've got some unrealistic expectations on the bigger designs, but I don't think I'm disappointed to where we are. I'm really pleased where we are in the find and fix work. And the system's stability right now, the valves that we've opened and worked on, this is a good shape. Jim?
Is there an update on fire hydrants?
Yeah, so we're continuing to work on that. We've Locks Water, the group we hired to do the valve work and then ultimately the hydrant work. They're starting their process of assessing the hydrants. They're still doing some valves, but they're now a little more focused on the hydrant piece. And as we find hydrants that they can't get flow test right, we're taping them off, we're coordinating with the fire department, make sure they know which ones we've already touched and don't work. And then we've got them on a schedule to put a contract out to start replacing the hydrants so we can't repair them.
How many don't work? Do we know?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, I'm sorry. Oh, and we've only scratched the surface. There's almost 8,000 hydrants, so it's going to take us a while to get through them. I shut one off yesterday. It was hard to shut, it needs work. I haven't had to do that in a long time. It's like old times. That was a surprise early on. The hydrants open and the vandalism, and that went away though, so that's good. Anything else? I really appreciate your time today.